So after Adventure 2, Sega became a third-party developer following the commercial failure of the Dreamcast, which resulted in them now releasing their games on non-Sega consoles. They did start by re-releasing the adventure games on the GameCube, but for their first multi-platform game, that honor would go to Sonic Heroes. Released in late 2003 and early 2004 for Japan and the West respectively, on the GameCube, PS2, Xbox, and later PC, it ended up being a major success for Sega and Sonic Team, being the highest selling 3D Sonic game up until Frontiers broke that record nearly 20 years later. It was developed by Sonic Team USA, led by Yuji Naka, as the producer, returning as the director's role Tadashi Iizuka, and the lead designer. According to Iizuka, Heroes was the most stressful project he had worked on at Sega, with them having to design many of the late stages all by himself as the other designer he was working with became ill and stopped showing up for work. Constantly working day in and day out, losing 22 pounds in the process, and developing insomnia during those sleepless nights. And while it's impressive he managed to still complete the stages on time, it shouldn't have cost his own mental and physical health just to get it done, because it sounds like utter hell to work like that, and no one should really go through that. But that was Sega back then, and they had to fill those deadlines in. Heroes was one of the earliest Sonic games I remember owning and playing as a kid. Replaying and restarting the game so many times as I didn't know what a save file was, but it didn't stop me from having fun regardless. It's been nearly 20 years since I've last fully played through Heroes, and after all that time, well, simply put, I still love Heroes. But like SA1, this game's got its fair share of jank and questionable design, to put it lightly. I'll be using Dolphin for this one, as while I still own my GameCube copy. As for my actual GameCube itself, the version, however, I cannot recommend is the PS2 version, with its frame rate being cut in half from 60 to 30, having worse graphics overall, and just not being a very good version. For now though, let's get into and talk Sonic Heroes. We're back to multiple stories to choose from, a total of 4 this time. But if you're expecting an in-depth story with world-shattering stakes, and someone getting gunned down by a firing squad, yes, I'm bringing that up because like what the fuck was that in SA2? Well, you'll be wrong, as Hero's story in comparison is way more simplistic. Most of the team's stories in fact can be just summed up in a few sentences. Team Sonic has the main trio receiving a video letter from the Doctor, which has to be the most impressive piece of technology in the series. Like, how do you work this shit? It's pretty cool. Threatening to take over the world within 3 days, taunting the team, and now the trio must set out to stop the Doctor once again. Elsewhere, Team Dark's story starts with Rouge sneaking into one of Eggman's facilities, which I know I'm already getting sidetracked, but I don't really like her suit in this game. I get they're trying to showcase the espionage spy elements of her character from like SA2, but it just doesn't work for me, man. I don't really like how this looks. Thankfully, she returns to her original suit after this. Rouge soon discovers Eggman's secret being a revived Shadow, and before the two can have a chat, an enigmatic robot shoots up the place trying to kill Shadow. Rouge stops the two from fighting, and learns that the robot E123 Omega, aka the best robot in the whole damn series, wants revenge on Eggman for locking him up in the room. As for Shadow, he's lost his memory from SA2, and the trio now seeks out to capture and destroy the Doctor. They try to play up this whole mystery as to if Shadow is just a robotic clone of the original. Spoilers, he's not, but that's for another day. And while it's the most interesting part of the story, I do have the question as to why Rouge doesn't tell Shadow of his past. She was with him for most of SA2, so I don't get why she doesn't try to jog his memory. Did she also forget, or is she just intentionally not telling him? Like, what are you doing? Tell him of his past. I mean, we have a whole nother game for that, and let's not talk about that one. For now, anyways. Omega is great, I love him. He's so blunt and straightforward with his delivery, and it makes him so much fun to watch and listen to. Team Rose has Amy Rose, Cream the Rabbit, Cheese the Chow, making her first playable console appearance, and a returning Big the Cat venture off to find Froggy and Cheese's brother Chocola, who have recently went missing and seemingly was taken by someone who looks to be Sonic. Finally, there's Team Chaotix, run by Vector the Crocodile, Charming the Bee, and Espia the Chameleon. Characters originally from the Sega 32X game Knuckles Chaotix. The only other member that's missing, however, is Mighty, which, well, he'll get his time to shine. 13 years from now, but he'll at least get it. They receive a job from a mysterious client who promises to pay them handsomely, and they accept it because, well, they got bills to pay, they need that shit. Now imagine how SA 1 and 2 start with amazing first impression. So does Heroes continue this Yes. it feels like being a kid again. Seaside Hill is a great first stage. It's got everything it needs to be a perfect first stage. It perfectly demonstrates what Heroes is all about, and the music. Heroes' soundtrack is amazing. It's one of the best in the series. It irradiates that in-your-face energy that the game never lets up. It also helps that Heroes is still a great looking game. Sure, some of the models can look a bit blocky, with some imperfections, but the environments and level themes are A-tier amazing. The sandy shores of Seaside Hill, the bustling cities of the Grand Metropolis, the bright and eye-catching courses of Casino Park, the dizzying heights of Rail Canyon, the lush green jungles of Frog Forest, the haunting and spooky atmosphere of Hane Castle, and finally the commanding airships of Egg Fleet. All these stages thematically are amazing. The voice acting is also the best it's been so far. Everyone from the Avenger games reprised their role. Well, except for Tails, which, I have to be honest, and no offense to the kid who played him, which he's likely in his 30s now, so I doubt he really cares, but this has to be one of the worst voices for Tails. I get that he's meant to be 8, at least that's what it says in the manual, but it comes out more annoying and irritating. Like, I get he's a kid, but my god. Sadly, this will be the last 3D game to use this cast. The very last game would be Sonic Advance 3, also a year before Dean Bristow's passing, which I already mentioned in my SA1 video. But still, rest in peace, good sir. You'll be always one of the best.
Don't get too excited, boys! Those were the easy ones!
It's also the first game to have characters speak during the stages, and I'm not gonna lie again, while cool, it can be pretty annoying with characters stating the blatantly obvious every time. Yes, Tails, those are in fact Eggman's robots. You do not have to state it every single fucking time.
Look at all those Eggman robots! Look at all those Eggman robots! Eggman's robots! Those Eggman's robots are Eggman's robots! Look at all those Eggman robots!
They never give up, do they?
We have a whole trio to control, broken up into 3 formations. Speed for, well, speed. Flying characters to reach higher places, and power for raw strength. You can switch between the formations on the fly using either the X or Y button, unless you're in the air, which I never got why you can't just switch mid-air. It never made sense to me. Each have their own unique attributes and abilities they can perform. Speed characters have the homing attack, the Sonic Tornado, and brand new to Heroes, the Rocket itself. A move I only ever used once, and that was for the tutorial. I never saw a use for this move outside of that. Every speed character besides Amy also has the triangle jump, allowing them to jump between walls. Sonic and Shadow still have their lightspeed dash from SA2 when it works. This damn thing works when it feels like it at points, and when it doesn't, it often led to my death ruining a run because a key mechanic like that decided to not fucking work. It sometimes feels like a 50-50 chance that it will work. Like whenever I see a trail of rings over a bottomless pit, I sure as hell get nervous knowing that it potentially would fuck up and let me die. Speaking of hit detection, it's jank as hell. Sometimes I somehow get hit by enemies when I'm not even sure how I did. I could be homing attacking an enemy, and all of a sudden the game just says, nope, and I get hit for whatever reason. Like, what did I hit? Did I hit the spear? Or what gives? Or shit like this. What kind of tomfoolery bullshit is this? This homing attack chain towards the end of Mystic Mansion for Team Sonic is despite holding towards the direction of those jack-o'-lanterns, it sometimes just doesn't want to work, resulting in a death. Like, come on, that's just straight up bullshit. What am I doing wrong? Am I just getting the timing wrong? Well, what gives? Oh well, Amy's got a short hover, which I didn't even know till now, and SBO can turn invisible to sneak past enemies and lasers, which is neat. Not much else to say, but other neat little additions. Flying characters can take flight for a short period and perform the Thunder Shoot, a move at its base level is not that great. It only stuns enemies, but that's where the level up system comes in. Each character can level up 3 times, upgrading their abilities to make something like, say, the Thunder Shoot actually useful. And when I mean useful, I mean really useful, because this thing wrecks robot shit. And that's also why losing these level ups becomes a massive pain. You only lose them if you die. Whatever you do as a flight character, do not grind as cream, otherwise... Oh, I'm sorry, Big. Oh, jeez. Power characters are pure combat focus. They do have the triangle dive, allowing the team to hover for a short period on fans. Now, some power characters can be fun, like giving Eggman's goons a good old belly flop from Big or Vector, but Knuckles and Omega? Ugh. Okay, so I don't hate them when they're fully leveled up, because their level 3 finishers are really good clearing out enemies. But Jesus, this slide they do. It gets so nerve-wracking when I have to control these two on smaller platforms because there's a good chance I could slide off the edge. Because why do they slide so far? At least for Knuckles, you could just stand in place and mash the B button to stop him in his place for rapid punches. But for Mega, not so much. He doesn't really have anything like that. Also, fuck these big guys, man. They really like throwing them towards the end of the game. Like, they're not hard to deal with, but they keep throwing waves of them. But like, Jesus Christ, just let me get a move on. This just is a pace breaker, man. Jesus. You know, so if you get caught in their spinning attack with barely any rings, too bad, you can't get out, you die, and get fucked. That's why I save the Team Blast for them. Oh right, Team Blast. Team Blast is a screen nuke that slowly charges up the more you attack enemies and collect rings. Each team's got their own unique version of it. Team Sonic has Sonic swimming around, and when using Thunder Shoot, Sonic's attack power is increased for a short period. Team Dark has Chaos Vortex, which freezes time, and also any doors and cages. Thankfully, you can just press the Z button again to cancel it out. Team Rose not only wipes out every enemy on screen, but are given a shield, a level up for each character, and a disability. Like, damn, talk about an overkill. Finally, there's Team Chaotix. They earn rings for each enemy caught in the blast, and when in large groups, your ring count skyrockets. Not only that, but it's also guaranteed to get another Team Blast afterwards. So this will probably be one of the more broken ones. Especially handy for those boss stages. Because man, I'll tell you, some of these stages can last up to 10 minutes! Jesus man, that gets exhausting. One major thing, however, that affects heroes, and is the biggest bane in this whole entire game, is the controls. This is the fastest Sonic and Company have been in 3D, and while it's stimulating and exciting to see them blaze through loops, it also makes everyone have butter on their feet. More of the speed characters, which I get, they're meant to be fast, but my god, they're sometimes called being too fast, to where the controls become slightly unresponsive. It makes platforming a little more trickier as a result, with the constant momentum that characters have. And with your acceleration being really quick too. Like, you go from 0 to 100 within a few seconds. It's strange how the controls went backwards in terms of quality when SA1 and 2 just got them right. Controls are hard to explain with words unless you actually played the game yourself. It could be a deal breaker for some people if the controls aren't that good. It didn't really ruin my entire experience, but when it acts up, it's not fun. Each story isn't one-to-one the same, as each story is classified by a different difficulty. Team Sonic is normal, Team Dark is hard, Team Rose is easy, and Chaotix is chaotix, or mission-based. In terms of my enjoyment, I will rank them from best to worst. It would be Sonic, Dark, Chaotix, and Rose. Team Sonic has the right amount of difficulty and length. They're not too long and generally are more comfortable to deal with. In fact, I would say it's the story I recommend people play from the start, because I think it does the best of showcasing what Heroes is best capable of. Team Dark does have harder enemies to deal with and slightly longer levels, but I strangely like the later half of the Dark stages. Well, besides throwing these enemies again, like Jesus man, I get it. Chaotix is fine. I don't mind the objectives that much. I mean, some can be annoying, like these candles in Mystic Mansion, but for the most part, I don't really have an issue with the missions. Most of which require either collecting a certain amount of items, like these bug-eyed hermit crabs, or collecting a chow at the end of the stage. But man, I think their final level is the worst of the four. It's not fun. Maybe because of the last stage I had to do and I got exhausted at that point, but man, I don't know, I didn't have fun with it. Now, I have heard horror stories of their extra levels, which I didn't do for this video, but I've seen plenty of other videos showcasing that yes, they're indeed hell. But I like to keep my sanity, thank you. Rose honestly has the problem of being too easy and too short. Almost all their stages can last less than 3 minutes, and I don't know, something is missing from their stages. Like, certain set pieces aren't there. It's like something is missing, you know. Maybe it just didn't help the fact I played those two stories beforehand, and makes Team Rose not feel all that fulfilling. Like, what's with these stage links? What is this? Sonic Forces? Oh wait, that's not funny. Also, the fact you had to play the tutorial each time you start Team Rose. Like, Jesus, Omachow, I get it. I played this game for 20 years. I know how to play it. Let me skip it, man. I know how to play the game. Fuck off. You know what's not fun? These keys. Each stage has a key you can find. Being the stage with the key will send you to the special stage. Similar to how the Genesis games did it. There are two different versions based on which act you got in. Act 1 is more for grinding lives. Act 2, however, is where you get a chance to collect a Chaos Emerald, making collecting and holding on to these things a nerve-wracking experience because it just takes one hit and you lose it. And while there could be other chances to collect another one, there are plenty of chances where you can be at the end of the stage and the game decides to say, fuck you, too bad, try again. Here's a tip, despite being able to collect any emerald with any team, do it with Team Rose. Again, their stages are the shortest, making second attempts a little more easier. Because these special stages happen to be the worst ones in the entire franchise. More specifically, their controls, because it feels like ass. Even when I'm trying to control these characters, it feels like a game of tug-of-war trying to get them to not stick to the side of the tube. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm holding the direction, but they just keep getting stuck on the sides. Like, man, it just kills the pace and my speed. And you're also given a time limit to collect these emeralds, and if you don't, too bad, try again. Thankfully I got all the emeralds on my first attempt, but man, these are not great. You know what I'm more mixed on? The boss battles. Most of them aren't that amazing. The first one is pathetically easy, especially with the belly flop. Egg Albatross is about the same, it's whatever. The horde battles aren't too bad, unless it's Egg Storm for Team Dark and Chaotix, which, man, these suck. Team Dark is because of the amount of enemies that throw at you, including, again, these big fucks. And Chaotix has this awkward segment where you have to use the cannon to destroy these flying enemies. There's also rival battles with other teams, and you can just simply spam Sonic Tornado and you win. Well, unless you're Knuckles, you're like, damn, dude, piss off! Egg Emperor is probably one of the better fights in the game. Its theme song is amazing. But at the same time, too, it's very easy to cheese this guy with the Thunder Shoot. Like, damn, Eggman does not stand a chance. Despite my gripes with certain elements, I still think when Heroes' gameplay comes together just right, and when you're bouncing between each character, running and jumping, defeating enemies along the way, it can sometimes feel great. But it starts to fall apart when those weird quirks start to rear their ugly head. Not much to ruin my entire enjoyment, but yeah, those sour points really leave a big sour taste. Also, one major advice as well, do not marathon this game. Because despite each team having their own unique set pieces and segments at points, you're still going through the same stages in the same order with the same bosses, and it gets really repetitive as a result. For as much as I love this game, it's a major issue I have with it. It just gets exhausting, man. If I were doing them back to back with the video, I'd probably take longer breaks between them. But that's just a personal advice for me. There's still one thing left to do. After beating every story and collecting all the emeralds, there's one last story to play. The final story. One thing is left unanswered, and that's after each story, we see that the Eggman we've been fighting the whole game isn't the real one. And surprisingly, no one questions this besides Team Chaotix. As it turns out, their contractor ends up being the real Eggman. And if you were to guess the true villain of the story is actually Metal Sonic, well, congratulations, as the game doesn't really hide that fact. And it's about as subtle as a jackhammer to the face. So throughout the game, Metal Sonic has been collecting data on everyone. And with this data and a brand new upgrade, Metal Sonic is now Neo Metal Sonic, trapping the Doctor and using his army to form a robot empire. And now with a voice too.
All living things kneel before your master.
Metal soon after a very lengthy transformation scene, like, you can make a sandwich, a cup of coffee, a bathroom, like whatever. Like, this thing lasts for nearly 3 minutes. Like, Jesus man, hurry up! Eggman believes that they are doomed, and if they only have the power of the 7 Chaos Emeralds. And conveniently, everyone decides to grab them along their travels. Given seemingly how every adventure they've been on for the last 2 games require the emeralds, I guess they just thought it'd be safe and sorry to just collect them all along the way. While everyone distracts Metal, Team Sonic goes super, or at least Sonic does, because definitely Knuckles and Tails don't have the super emeralds to go super, but whatever, it doesn't matter what happens. I think Metal Overlord is also the best fight in the game, and that's because the Rocket Cell is actually useful. He launches energy balls, battleships, even having the power of Chaos Control. I don't know if I'm using Chaos Control, but he does have it. I just rarely see him using it. One supersonic beatdown later and he's defeated.
I am the ultimate overlord, Metal Sonic. I am the real Sonic.
Yeah! We did it!
Phew, that was pretty tough. Too bad it's all over. For you!
Now that's how you end the game. Metal reverts back to his original form, and the day is saved. Everyone goes on their merry way, as the trio run off onto their next adventure. And that was Sonic Heroes. Despite me being frustrated with many of the game's design and encounters, I still can't help but love it. Is there bias there?
Definitely.
But I still really like Heroes. Now, there's been this rumor floating about of a remake to Heroes, which right now is just a rumor. And I guess I would be fine with a remake, but I'm also getting to the point where I'm tired of every game getting a remake, when sometimes it doesn't need one. But that's a whole nother topic. At the very least, I would like a remaster of Heroes, just like how SA 1 and 2 were. You know, just put them on modern consoles and PC once again. Heroes may not be for everyone, but I think it still has heart in it, and there's a lot more potential if they ever got a sequel. Heroes may be one of my favorites, but as for next time we enter the Sonic universe, Well, I'm gonna have to mentally prepare myself for that one. For now, I've been Sonic Man, and I thank you for watching. Have a good day, or night, or whatever, and take care. Also, I finished Sonic Heroes.